Testing. Testing, 1, 2. I think it's working. Well, thank you all for coming today. I'm Donnie Laughery, in case you didn't already know. I'm Donald D. after my mom's dad, and my father was Donald E. after his dad. He used to say he wanted to name me Dallas or Austin, but he didn't get his way. And he actually decided he was only responsible for the last name, and I think that's probably fairly accurate. I'm going to just read the obituary through. Donald E. Laughery of Fridge, Texas, passed away on April 3rd of 2024 in Amarillo, Texas, at Ussery Rowan, Texas State Veterans Home at the age of 23. Don was born in Amarillo, Texas on November the 4th of 1940 to parents Elbert Laughery and Florence Root Laughery. Don grew up in Electric City and attended Phillips schools. Go Blackhawks. He graduated from Phillips High School in 1959 and later achieved his associate's degree in business administration from Frank Phillips College in May of 1985. Fun fact, same day I graduated from Frank Phillips with my AS, which is kind of cool. In 1963, Don married wife Sharon Perry. They welcomed one son, Donnie, in 1965, and one daughter, Amy, in 1974. They were married for 33 years, and although divorced, they became good friends in their later years. He had 2 grandchildren, Lauren Stovall and Claire Stovall. Don served in the Navy from 1963 to 1967. He worked training pilots in areas such as low-pressure chamber and ejector seat operation. He worked at a variety of occupations throughout his life, including surveying, plant clerking, operating at Camex, and warehouseman for the XL helium plant. He retired from the helium plant when that closed in 1998. He was particularly proud of his Navy service and the surveying for the construction of Sanford Dam at Lake Merrill. His hobbies included riding dirt bikes and shooting pistols, but the outdoors really dominated his spare time. Don was an avid gardener. He could grow a plant in a container that would just blow your mind with tomatoes just falling off of it. I'm ad-libbing now. He loved to hike and explore and also achieved the ranking of master naturalist in his later years. Don also had a passion for music, especially live music. He attended countless live music events. His favorite local bands were the Solano Project and Geezers Gone Wild. He also loved to hear live bluegrass music. Don was preceded in death by his father, Elbert Laughery, mother, Florence Cranfill, stepfathers, Ernie Key and Olin Cranfill, brothers Chuck Key, Jerry Laughery, and Carl Laughery, and granddaughter Claire Stovall. He is survived by son Donnie Laughery and wife Paula of Garland, Texas, and daughter Amy Stovall and husband Jeff of Amarillo, Texas, as well as granddaughter Lauren Stovall, brother Ernie Key, and his wife Cindy, plus numerous nieces and nephews. So this is going to be just thoughts and observations, and they may not be in the best order, but we're going to go with it. So why am I doing the service? His church, he used to attend First Christian in Borger, and it folded up years ago. And since then, he really didn't have a church home. And I didn't really want somebody that didn't know him to do this. And it just seems kind of impersonal, and I don't know. Plus, I wanted to be sure they knew how to say his last name, Laughery. Because that's a thing for us, a lifelong thing. Why are we here in this place? And it's a little bit of serendipity because I had no idea it would work out this way. A lot of you know that this was formerly a church, and it was the home of a church called Borger Christian Center for years. This was actually the church that Amy and I grew up in, and we attended this church as a family for many years, so it kind of has a nice sense of completion to actually end up back here. Even though we didn't plan it that way, it was just what it was available, and this is actually the first service that Bergens has done here. My dad definitely had an Amarillo connection. He was born and died there, but he only lived there about 3 years, roughly, out of his 83. And it seems odd, but then again, he had quite the affinity for the place, shopping, eating out, attending live music shows, volunteering at wildlife rescue, visiting family. So it's kind of another full circle thing that he passed there. Just a couple of things I discussed with him when he was at BSA after his heart was really failing about 2 months ago. It's kind of interesting. I asked him what his favorite job was, and he said surveying for power lines in New Mexico after he retired. He worked for off and on different things for a while after he retired. And he said he got to drive a four-wheel drive pickup on a sketchy bulldozer cut road through steep terrain while being outside and getting exercise. It was the best days at work ever. So that definitely sounds like him. And his favorite place to live surprised me a little, but then it did make sense. It was not picturesque Jacksonville, Florida, or beautiful Chama, New Mexico. It was my childhood home. Sorry. In Borger, where Mom still lives, where he helped raise his kids. He said it was the only place that felt like home. I was really glad that he had a renewed relationship with my mom towards the end of his life. After they'd been divorced for almost 30 years, they were friends again. And she was there for him at the very end, only person in the room with him when he died. It was important for her. And it's another full circle kind of moment. I guess everybody knows about his love for music. My dad loved music. Live music, bluegrass, pop, country, Christian, rock and roll, choir singing. Some people might not realize that he was actually in the Borger Community Choir for a couple of years that sang out at Frank Phillips and went around different places. And it's kind of funny, I wrote down silly songs. There were certain songs that he would just get in his head, and he would love to. When I was younger, he would play it, he would dance around and be silly. Just to give you an example, he loved "You Make My Dreams Come True" by Hall & Oates, "Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress," and get this, "My Toot Toot" by Rockin' Sydney. I hated that song. But he just got such a kick out of it. And I wanted to touch on something regarding his life that's more of a serious note. Just to talk about his wounding and just some things that I feel like affected his life profoundly. It would just come out randomly. You would sense these issues of abandonment, possibly trust issues. I could do more, but there's two that really stuck out to me. One big one and one really small one, but it was sad to me that he was still talking about it so far after it happened. One day he just randomly told me that when his parents split up and his dad left, that he was chasing the car down the street, trying to get him to take him with him. And, divorce hurts, and it hurts some people more than others. It was just hard to hear. And then, as much as he was proud of going to Phillips High School, one day he just randomly told me that some of the kids would call them river rats because they lived down in Electric City, down close to the river. And it's strange to hear a 70-year-old person come out with something like that they probably heard 60 years ago. So, basically, I think my dad had a pretty good life, but I do think maybe it could have been better if he had been a little less wounded, or really learned to leave those woundings in the past. I believe that we're largely driven by these woundings and by our insecurities, and living this way can limit you in your career, your relationships, and virtually every aspect of your life. It makes me think maybe we could just all treat each other just a little bit better. Words may bounce off some people, but others will hold on to them for the rest of their life. Dad's death made me realize life is short. Don't leave things unsaid. Don't leave things undone. Don't hold on to grudges. Don't hold on to hurts. Now, you may look at the world and see problems and despair, and that may be true to a point, but there is still so much beauty in the world and so much for us to be thankful for. Just driving up here, the wildflowers between Denton and Decatur were so beautiful, and on the other side of Decatur, they were even better. As I get older, I'm just grateful for each new day, each new experience, and each occasion that I get to share time with others. Now, I've made a point of not being preachy because I'm not a preacher, but I will be a little preachy. I would just advise people, if you're already a Christian, be one. Be available, be caring, compassionate, understanding, forgiving, gracious, and loving. And if you're on the fence about salvation, don't waste your time because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And if you're one of those people that's just absolutely certain you're never going to be a Christian, that list I read before, you can do those things too. I dare say that no one here will reach the end of their life and regret being too nice or too generous with others. Regrets are reserved for the hurtful things we've done or the loving things we did not do. I want to end this with a beautiful song by Lauren Daigle called You Say. It tells us about God sees us in juxtaposition to how we often see ourselves. It really makes me think of my dad when I hear it, and I hope it makes us all think. So thank you for coming, and God bless you.